right.
I love the fact that, hey, YouTube, if you're joining us, we're just popping in live right now. The fact that I start this meeting, go live on YouTube, and then it asks me if I know that it's being live streamed, and secondly, if I want to leave the meeting, is always fantastic. Love it. I literally start the process like, do you know this is live? Are you sure you want to do this? You can leave if you don't want to be viewed online. I started this process. Anyway, God bless YouTube and Zoom for getting their shit wired like that, because how many weird things have to happen on Zoom before you realize that you're being broadcast to YouTube or being recorded, right? Yeah. Anyway, we're going live. I'm doing the button pushing in the back end. Welcome to the MCC Virtual Box Lunch, Friday the 13th, in August of 2021. I am Mitch Kamich. I am your host. I am the Savage in Business, and my brothers from other mothers. I think that's our only studio audience today, but that's okay. We'll still bring the heat for you. Paul Falkowski, Matt Hewson, inside the portfolio. Got their own portfolios as well. Badasses at what they do. Brothers, it is always a pleasure to be able to see you guys. And while I'm doing a little bit of button pushing, let's really quick say hi to everybody. Introduce yourselves. We'll get this going and we'll plow into it today because it's a nice day out. And while we want to bring some education, heat, and fun for everybody else, we also want to get out and enjoy the sunshine too. So with that, Matt, you're up.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mitch. Matt Hewson, like Mitch had already mentioned, working closely with MCC because he is the Savage in Business. And I really want to become that broker of certainty for small, medium-sized business owners. I've been working within small business consulting for years now, and we want to help make and save you guys money because it's tough to make money and now more than ever. And if we can add to that or have that opportunity to keep those lights on, let's do so. So I'm excited for today. You had mentioned offline that we were going to change the format up. So yet again, we're blindsided, but thank you for that, Mitch. But I look forward to the chat. Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, Paul Falkowski. I'm a business coach along with Mitch and Matt at MCC. I like broker certainty, arm in arm with the Savage on that side, and bringing that not settling mentality. There's a solution out there. We can solve this together. It's maybe just unaware of it. So all three of us like to break complex things down and make them simple, easy to follow, turn the dial a little bit. So that's what gets me excited is that aha moment for business owners that are out there. Oh, wow. So let's get everyone excited. Let's get everyone moving, making money, and having a little bit of fun while we're at it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. While we're finishing up some button pushing here right now, sharing the YouTube link. So if you come and you're finding us on YouTube as well, or you happen to find the link on Facebook for the Syndicate family, you always know that you can come and join us right here in the studio audience, get your name out there, share a few of the ideas that we've got going on, be part of the audience, part of the problem solving, part of the solution, or sometimes just part of the landscape. But you can get into it here. You can certainly talk about what we're going to be doing with this. Now, we're going to turn the tables this week a little bit. So I'm not sandbagging these boys like I did when we were talking about cryptocurrency, AI. Yeah, we covered some of those topics. You got to go back to our 6-month review, 6 months in advance episode. Got to go back and check it out about a month ago. Well, Mitch, make it easy for me. No, Your Honor, you're right here. Go to the MCC channel. Look for the Virtual Business Box Lunch playlist. Go down for the 6-month business review, 6 months in advance. We'll do another one at Christmas. That'll be lots of fun. In fact, I'm thinking that maybe if I can come out of my office cul-de-sac long enough, and of course, if we are not locked down again, maybe the three of us should do that one live. Ooh, a little bit of festive cheer, etc. I think that might be a good way to spend some time in the company of good brothers and friends. So, shifted format today. You're going to see this from time to time moving forward. And no, not just sandbagging these two guys with subjects they have no idea about. But it did get me thinking last week. They asked some great questions about that. I wanted to tell you how we pick what we do every single week. First of all, it's stuff that obviously attracts my attention. But it has to match a couple of criteria. One, it has to have an effect on small to medium businesses. In other words, does it have an immediate or some form of effect on businesses? Something that can cause a reaction response, good or bad, to you and your business, the environment you're working in right now. Secondly, is it relevant to where we're sitting at? Yes, we live in Western Canada, but I want to be able to look both locally, regionally, and then nationally, and of course the whole scope for the North American continent. So next is, does it have an effect? First, local. If it does, might be a little too small, not relevant to everybody. Secondly, regionally, does it have a bigger footprint effect? And third, could it be something that is felt across the North American continent? Lastly, is it timely, meaning that it is occurring to us right now, which means it might be something you're going through. Now, there's always the chronic problems. I don't want to come in every week and have us talk about cash flow or marketing or that other stuff. You could get that. I got thousands of hours of content elsewhere on this channel. These boys talk about it all the time. You can come and find us on our website, on all of our social channels, and talk to us about that stuff. How do I manage cash flow? How to get rid of my finances? How do I help with my sales marketing? We don't do that stuff. We talk about what's timely, what's going on in the environment right now, what can affect you and your business. So I've got one topic today. This is the change. You guys are each suggesting your own topic for the three of us to roundtable. Again, something that is specific, has an effect on small to medium business, something that can have a local, regional, or national impact, preferably all three. In other words, people can feel it in lots of different places. And third, it's timely. It's something that's occurring right now. So when you guys, by the way, I won't be here next week. It'll be Matt and Paul holding down the fort, doing their thing. We should have some more studio audience members at that point to be able to participate, have lots of fun. But they've just heard the format that we want to start with. So effect on small to medium business, local, regional, national impact, and timely, as in something we're going through right now for business that we can take it, look at it, talk about it out loud, and impart some wisdom. Because just amongst the three of us here for a moment, we're not that old, but we have decades of collective experience, hundreds of companies worth of impacted view in the last 16 months, watching that happen in the case of global recession, worldwide pandemic, market shifts, volatility, mass failure rates, mass unemployment, depending on sector. So all of these we've been watching very closely and dealing with. So we hope that helps us impart some wisdom to you. So with that, thinking caps on, brains engaged, links have been sent out for people to come join us, watch what we're doing, etc. So pop in, talk to us. I'll be able to reply on YouTube if I can as well, as quickly as we can. Here we go. We're going to solve the problems. Matt, what's the first problem we've got to talk about, solve? What's the first challenge that we're facing in the marketplace this week? And yes, this is where I sandbag them by making them go, shit, I got to think of a topic really quick. But it might be something that might be experiencing timely themselves.
It's been a topic that I've chatted about with my clients and with my peers often the past week or two, which is staffing and attrition and what type of culture you're now building. So for me, it's been, food and beverage specific. They're having a tough time finding those part-time servers, full-time servers, right? Because now all of a sudden there's other avenues to pursue. That said, it's happening in so many different cultures and in industries. Is it a hybrid model now? Do you allow them to work from home on a partial, basis? Those type of things. So to me, that topic speaks to us locally and nationally. I have some clients out east that are going through the same thing. They're just coming out of their lockdown too, and it's been a tough reopening because everyone wants to be out and about. But the expectation is that it was like before, and you're not able to facilitate that, whether or not it's a lack of staff or you got to shake off the rust, right? Like I was fortunate enough to be in an in-person meeting last night, and many of us have done it hundreds, if not thousands of times before. And we, again, had to shake off the ring rust. So, there were some awkward moments there, but it's how do you captivate staff right now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Paul, thoughts?
Yeah, big time. Governments are still paying. I think that's a part of it. You're able to sit at home. Maybe you don't have as much money as you want, but at the same time, you don't have to leave and go off to a job. So, there is that trade-off. I think that is definitely impacting people's decisions, whether they want to go back to work. But there is a problem. The other side is when those checks stop, is there going to be a stampede at that point, coming into the fall that, oh my God, those are stopping because, human nature is do it last minute. So are we all going to run for jobs at the same time? So, it's a little bit of a crunch now, but in the fall, are we going to see things change? I think we will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'd like to talk about some of the symptoms for a moment. Matt, you brought the subject up, so obviously I'll offer an opinion on this, right? When we consider that, and to light of what Paul's saying right now, we have been conditioned or hearing or listening to or watching the dialogue about the amount of money that business or businesses pay for their employees, depending on role, et cetera. In North America, we have this cultural acceptance, if you will, when it comes to food and beverage, particularly when it comes to servers, bartenders, as examples. Pay is whatever the minimum amount is required, because those servers, bartenders, et cetera, are going to make it up in the form of tips. It's a cultural behavior we have. We go to a restaurant, even if the service isn't that good, we still tip, right? If the service is okay, we seem to be tipping well. And if the service is fantastic, we tip really, really well. So the amount of money you're going, well, they should know better, or they do this, so they got to save some money to do these other things. So hold on for a second. There's two sides to this coin. First of all, when you create the opportunity to not even 3 or 4 hours, never mind 5 or 6 or 8 hours, or the number of people, between Matt and I with hospitality backgrounds over the years, to sit there and watch how many people do we know had multiple jobs at multiple restaurants? How many people would open at a breakfast place, work through the lunch shift, leave and end up in the swing shift, evening shift, or a close shift someplace else? Or how many people at food and beverage would go to school in culinary all morning, start school at 7 o'clock in the morning, be done by 11 o'clock or 12, go to work and work from 2 to 10, right? Well, they're bettering themselves, et cetera. Well, the kitchen isn't much better than the serving staff out front. It's only a few dollars more an hour. So it's not necessarily a dialogue about whether or not there's enough money. It has to do with the way we view how the work is actually done. We treat the population as almost disposable. Even the best restaurants, like, well, I'll just put up my shingle saying that I want more, and not a detriment to restaurant owners right now. Don't misunderstand. Small and medium businesses. Every one of the restaurants we know that's smaller in footprint has maybe a dozen employees. You have 2 or 3 or 4 people that work in the back. You have 2 or 3 or 4 people that are serving. You have a couple of helpers, et cetera. Then you have the owner or a manager or something like that. Smaller restaurants operate on maybe a dozen people, all told. It's not a lot of staff. So cash flow money, et cetera, like every other small business, is really, really tight, really conscientious over what you're getting. Now, do you look to invest by paying more in somebody that you're not sure about? Do you spread it out as much as possible? Because all it takes is that old adage, right? It's all well and good to put the reins of government in the hands of the perfect man, but what happens when the perfect man gets a bellyache? So we sit there balancing: do I hire better? What does better even look like? How do we do it, et cetera? So this environment right now, where we've got so much getting damaged, hurt, pounded, beaten up in hospitality, there's still, and how many times in this session over the last 2 months have we brought up the fact that there are any number of restaurants that are killing it right now because they had to shift? So now we have to look at perhaps making a shift in the way we consider hiring and employment. Restaurant, you can't work from home. Other businesses you can. But we're seeing employers now 16 months, 17 months, 18 months into a pandemic, not in hospitality, moving away from hybrid working, work from home models, et cetera. Or now we're seeing major employers go, hold on a second. If you decided you want to work from home, we're going to cut your payback. So just as a personal opinion, is it any wonder people are going to sit at home cashing the government check until it's there? But to Paul's point, and as an extension of that for a moment, how many more times do we stop going back to work? Do we stop creating the environment, or as business owners changing the way we view how we pay people, or the way we want them to engage inside of our business, so that we're not here when the flood comes back?
One, to speak to that short term, yeah, we're in this like pause moment because, again, and not just food and beverage specific, obviously hospitality as a whole, but even in the trades industry, they're now in it so much so because it's so busy, right? They're at their capacity that it's back in the old days where you could walk across the street to the competitor and get a job 15 minutes after you quit your old job, right? So how do you create the culture or the environment that, attracts long-term staffing? I believe would all subscribe to that. The longer you have somebody, the easier it is to help manage and lead them, right? So it's now just going to be about when, right? And Paul, I agree that I think September, October, everyone's going to be like, hey, wait a minute, I'm not getting $900 a month or whatever it is, right? Like they're like, I got to go back to work. It's going to elevate certain parts of the industry, because again, the top tier restaurants are going to be able to say, no, I want the best, and they're going to wait for the best, whereas everyone else is going to be slim pickings. But it's going to, again, the allocation of wealth based off of, length of term or quality of service is going to change, right? And you can be a change leader in that part of the industry by being, maybe a everyday casual comfortable restaurant, but creating a culture where the top tier people want to come and work for you because of some aspect of what you're doing, right? Some incentive, and that's something that people need to be looking at and should have already been thinking about right now, because it will help drive them forward and be that change leader, because it's tough. Everyone's help wanted. Well, what kind of help do you want? Right? Because sometimes you get somebody and they're not help. They're actually the opposite thereof, right? So I'm curious to see who's going to kind of level up and create an environment that is going to be that point of difference for their industry.
Mm-hmm. Paul, anything else?
Nope, we're good.
Have we fixed all the problems? All right, then here's where I get you guys. Secondary format 2. One thing, and Matt, you've just touched on it as well, but I want to narrow it down so less than 15 seconds of talking. One thing that businesses should do, particularly food and beverage businesses, right now. What's the one step or the one mechanic they should take right now? The one thing they should take away.
Well, I had mentioned this earlier in one of our other talks, is that they have to be marketing to their external customer, so their true customer, about the experience. Because again, we've all been maybe sharing in their food because we've ordered it online or whatever it may be, but we haven't been able to experience what they are about in dining service. So that's key. And they also need to focus a marketing campaign for their internal customer or their staff, which brings us back to the first comment, or the first talking point for us.
Mm-hmm. Paul, 15 seconds. What do they need to do?
Environment. Create that beautiful environment that you want to be in. Food is down the list. It's being welcomed, having somebody smile, having somebody, taking care of you a little bit. It's like being a guest. You're the host and they're a guest in your house. I mean, if you can get that across, if you can have that as a culture, I want to come back. Please take my money. Because that's what I think has been lacking. And I think if you can have that, you will have a leg up on your competition and you will be booked. And then you will be able to turn tables. So, sometimes it is doing a little bit of the opposite, which can be hard or a challenge in the beginning, but that's what's definitely going to pay off.
Fantastic. My final thought on this, and then Paul, we're going to be going to your subject. So be ready in just a moment. Final thought on this: while food and beverage is the primary principle that we've got there, consider the environment. So marketing and creating that sense of hospitality. Make a change now. Something. Find anything. You have this device, or you're on this device, whichever one it is, watching this, listening to us, etc. Anything else that could be going on right now. You have unlimited information at your fingertips. So what are your competitors, or what are the very best in the industry doing? Work to emulate that. That looks like it costs a lot of money. It costs no money to change the way you host and do different environments. It costs no money to build a partnership with a virtual event planner. It costs no money to talk about catering for family events, businesses, etc. It costs no money to do something. We've got a great, our sister organization right next to MCC, Syndicate. We had a Christmas party for our entire membership last year, right? And yes, there's people of all sorts of different faith and denominations. So bear with me for a moment when I say Christmas party. The seasonal festival, the Christmas party for Syndicate members. We had a noted world-class chef and bartender host virtually how to cook and mix drinks. And then we had a DJ spinning tunes, and we did all sorts of cool stuff the entire night. That was a complete blast. Lorette, you're here. Fantastic. I think you can nod and agree already that the Syndicate Christmas party was pretty badass, even though we couldn't all see each other face to face, right? Mm-hmm. So look at some way to change what you're doing from the environment for food and beverage. Look at the way you do that. But the same thing has to happen for the rest of the business. If you're not going to be bringing people back to work, how do you change the way you engage? Well, we spend so much time in Zoom meetings. Should you? Maybe hire a virtual DJ. There's a reason Tony Robbins does what he does. There's a reason Grant Cardone does what he does, etc. You want me to bring that sort of stuff in here? They're more successful than you. Do something different than what you're used to right now to change the environment, change the way you deliver food, change the way you display food, change the way you talk to your staff, change the way you deliver that message out to people, change the way you talk to your regular client base, change the way you talk to it. And for the love of God, treat your staff like part of your customer base, because they're probably your most loyal. And if you can, pay them more. Don't destitute yourself, but if you can, pay them more. All right, we're there. We're out. Subject number 2. Paul, what are you seeing over the last week or so? Once again, rules of engagement has an effect on small to medium business, can be local, regional, or national, right? And has this impact on us, something that we need to fix right now, So what do we got? What are we going to start pulling apart here?
Well, what I've been noticing over the last 2 weeks is a lot more stress, strain, and hostility, either with all of the business owners that not all of them, but a lot of them. And it seems to be coming out in different ways. It's either coming out in their relationships, it's coming out with their staffing, or they're just shutting down and packing it in. So that's what I've been noticing, is it just seems all of a sudden things have just kind of ratcheted up. And, you know, how do we as business owners or just human beings deal in those situations? Matt, what do you think? Or how?
I agree. I think it's been this, quiet growth internal for so many business owners, where they've been at the threshold for so long, and they think they have it, yet we're now here. And because we have all the moving parts back, they're finding that they're not well greased. And again, like I had mentioned, the rust has to kind of be brushed off a little bit. And yeah, it's difficult, because it's not that sharp stabbing pain that just happens once and you can kind of bear with it. It's that low grade, migraine type scenario where 18 months in, it's now just getting to us, right? And I would be part of that, where we've chatted in great detail about people that say, "Oh, I give 110%." Well, again, like, there's only so much energy out there. So guess what? If you believe you're giving 110%, that means you're taking 10 from somewhere else. Is that loved ones, family, co-workers, somewhere, right? So we just now need to be mindful of where the stressors are and those pain points are, and identify very quickly with the business owner what the top pain point is, and work on that most, because that's going to free up time to do everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch?
Actually, I was going to turn the floor to Lorette first.
Oh, Lorette, yes.
I'm ready to talk. I missed the whole thing, but I can pull something out. So like the huge reset, right? Is that pretty much what we're talking about? So I was cold calling this week. And like a lot of people don't answer their phone right now because they're resetting, and they're like, I don't know how to talk to this person. But someone on this call was like, don't do information, just call them. Just call them out of the blue. Know nothing about this company, but call them. So like the company that I called was like, do you not know our mission? Do you not know our values? Do you not know our purpose? I'm like, no, because I'm calling you tell me about your mission, your value, and your purpose. I'm really tired of people like, the internet is the way to go. No, you do business person to person, like people to people. So I think that within the flow of business, it's how do people talk? How do people build relationships? So this reset is, who do I actually want to align with, is what I'm going to say. That's my thought on that, really, is who are you talking to? What are you talking about? How is that business person to person going, instead of this abstract COVID, this abstract internet thing? The internet thing works, but at the end of the day, a conversation in front of someone else is the best business.
I believe it touches on what Paul's asking about too. And so Paul, if I can, with Lorette here for a moment, everything else and all the stresses and pressures that we're carrying, we're also losing with so much of this, if I can restate and paraphrase, the actual ability to engage with other people. And while she was talking, what hit me when you were going to ask me to talk, and then of course I turned the floor over to Lorette, I read an article just last night, And this article is by a noted sports author, right? And he writes many articles for one of the well-known, noted sports online entities, and talks about all things hockey. And what he was actually writing about is summer league play, and how he got to a certain level like junior hockey, but how he found himself one day a few years ago, and it happens from time to time, playing basically summer league, rec league with some of the pro players in the NHL, doing their off-season training. And he was talking about something that had touched on this here, and this goes back to the 110% comment from Matt as well. He was like, here's a list of do's and don'ts when you're playing summer league, especially if you find yourself playing shinny with pro players. Do try, right? Do take the shot. The list of things that he was talking about is don't overdo it. Don't oversell it. Don't be that dude in the corners or whatever it is. Nobody wants to tear a knee or hurt an ankle or take pucks off the ankle. I'm talking about all things. So if you have any understanding about hockey, a puck in the ankle is painful as hell. A puck climbing your stick and hitting you in the face and knocking out some teeth, especially if you're rec league, that's going to hurt like hell, right? Getting jabbed, rammed, or cross-checked from behind, standing in front of the net is going to hurt like hell. And running the goaltender, trying to chase a puck down, see if you can poke one between the pads, is going to hurt like hell and get you beat in the off season. But it's probably going to get you beat by people that make millions of dollars to play the sport pro that really don't want to go through this step. Why I'm bringing that up, going, why are you talking about hockey when it comes to business? It's quite simple. We are either overdoing it or not doing it at all. There's no median ground. You know, context in a business standpoint. I had a client that I spoke to just recently, last 24 hours, that has gone through such trials and tribulations. Our most recent conversation was, just do the next one thing. Just do the next one thing. I've got this giant list. I don't give a shit. Pick just a handful. I talked to another client yesterday. Same theme. Pick a certain number of things. Just do that. I spoke to a client this morning, early on, very early, because I start talking to clients 7 o'clock in the morning. You got this massive list of things that has to happen by a certain amount of time. Yeah. What do you have to do today? What do you have to do today so that it's done going into the weekend so that you feel better about it? What are you going to set yourself up for Monday? What are you going to set yourself up for Tuesday? We're not doing this in business often enough right now because there's so much chaos. But if we go back to that, you know, the number of people, not including food and beverage, that were sent home, we did find, a topic we've had here before in another way, that as people started to narrow down the amount of stuff they did in the business on any given day, their performance at their primary job started to increase. The output happened at the same level or higher in less time. So, you know, just the next one ask, putting in just the right effort, knowing what the expectation is, or, you know, talking to people. I got Lorette on my screen right underneath me here right now. On YouTube, I guess Paul's right underneath me, but I'm pointing to Lorette. So on YouTube, I'm pointing at Lorette, not Paul. When we're talking here, this is the most important conversation to have. When I'm talking, I'm pointing at Matt right now, this is the most conversation to have. And when I'm pointing to Paul, that's the most important conversation to have. And instead of just treating it like information dumps, actually take the time to establish a little bit, this is exactly what I want to do. And this is what I'm capable of doing. And this is what I can work on next, etc. It becomes a more collaborative approach in business. And then we're not so much chasing, worrying, or hiding from somewhere, as opposed to just doing the next thing and accomplishing something throughout the day. Final thoughts? So much like the last question, Matt, you got something?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that it speaks to, you know, I guess coming full circle with the conversation about all the moving parts are fired back up, right? So like, I'm a very visual learner. I love to paint a picture. So it's like literally the 100-year-old steam engine that you're trying to fire up and hard start, right? But we've had the opportunity for 18 months to get to know our business better. Some of us have been super wise and hired a coach or HR or marketing, and others haven't. And now if you're finding it difficult because you're the only one pulling on that lever trying to hard start, my suggestion is that although late, it's never too late. Call us and let's see what we can do. Because I had mentioned, and I want to clarify, the biggest item is something that you should work on collaboratively with a coach or with somebody that is kind of the industry expert. Whereas if you have 1,000 things on your checklist, start just checking off the low-hanging fruit, the easy stuff, as long as it's valuable within your business. If you're just doing it, like I had this conversation this morning, Do you make a call and then add it to your to-do list after the fact so that you can check something off, right? Like that's not valuable. That's just you trying to empower yourself. Say, oh, look how busy I was today. Create the list the day before and get to it. But again, the big things you should work with industry professionals or coaches. The other stuff, start checking it off so that you get the wins mentally, and that will kind of compound itself so that you can get it out of the way. You just have to start.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Paul, 15 seconds, final thoughts on this subject.
It's easy to get overwhelmed. It's, the lists will never, ever end. And I'm, for myself and for the people that I work with and the people I surround myself with let's do the small wins. I don't care if it's making your bed, woohoo, and then we got to celebrate that. Like, we just can't slough this stuff off and keep moving the goalposts for our goals. Yes, we have big goals, but what are all of the tiny, small, you think, or we think, insignificant steps until we get the big win? It's actually picking up the damn phone and calling and then maybe hanging up. I don't care. That's action. You're getting into that movement. You're getting into motion, and that starts to get traction on that side. So for me, and, for the people I work with, let's just do 3 things. I'm not asking for 20. I'm not asking for 10. Let's just do 3. Let's figure out what those top 3 are, and we'll focus on that. No more, no less. Let's keep it simple.
We're at 15 seconds. Final thoughts?
There's power in listening and there's power in support. So like, bring people with you. Don't just be the alpha. Sometimes it's okay to play the beta game where you just help people and whisper along the way.
Okay, fantastic. All right, I got 2 subjects we're going to tackle in our last 20 minutes here together today. So I brought 2 to the table today. Loosen up, get the neck muscles, right? Okay, ready? Absolute doozies. No, they're really good. The last 16 months, we touch on a number of different things that we seem to recycle back to, but it's because we see the same symptom or the same idea cropping up every single week. This is both a local and a regional, but it comes nationally for me or internationally for me because I speak to people all over the world. But right now, thanks to COVID, actually, I spend a lot more time just talking in North America, not anywhere else in the world, right? But I get a good view, a good idea. In the last 16 months, who made a significant change in either the way they're doing business or where their supply comes from? Every week for 16 months, I've watched construction-based businesses, as an example, continue to get pinched by supply issues. Who's tried to order something on Amazon the last little while? Who's tried to order something from Wish or Wayfair? Who's tried to order something from Alibaba or AliExpress, right? Depending on where these things are coming from the world, no, there's not a dialogue about whether or not you should buy things from China or from India or anywhere else in the world. The supply that we rely on becomes one of those fixtures. We talked about that today already, because we're so used to doing a certain way that we haven't made an adjustment. So in the last 16 months, who's made a significant adjustment when it comes to the way they supply or meet the demand of whatever they're offering? Our case, we provide a service. Did we make a change? If you sell a product, did you make a change in where it's coming from? Do you know what to expect out of your supply line? Do you know what your material costs are, et cetera? I'm going to get everybody's thoughts on this in a moment, but when I bring up supply, important to note, if I just take a company like electrical or HVAC as an example, we went through a boom for the AC season to the point where suppliers in our regional and national supply chain ran out weeks earlier than they normally would. And when new reorders were coming back in, we're in August, we're on a second reorder. There's a second cycle where suppliers are getting stuff in. That stuff is moving so quickly, it's already been spoken for before it even hits the floor. And yet we're also seeing providers that are not affecting or not changing their pricing or their price model. Yet in construction, HVAC and electrical as examples, prices are as much as 40 or 60% higher for material and goods and supply. So seeing that and starting with the framework of how we supply what we do, but looking at the way we do things to get smarter, work smarter, not harder. Also, do you think if we either charged more or saved more money, we could afford more for people? Tossing that one out there as well. So thoughts from the floor.
I had to change because I was trying to order a hot tub, and it was going to be a year to 18 months. Couldn't do that. So you want to talk about supply chain? There you go. You can't walk in and get yourself a hot tub anymore. Shortages. So a matter of adjusting. Where can you adjust? How can you adjust? I know for myself, most of it's online, not as much face to face on that side. So big adjustment, technological change, things going a little haywire, late to meetings because it won't load. So all the trials and tribulations, stressors, and then getting into that flow and moving forward. Now things have changed, things have opened up. Am I still doing majority of Zoom? Yeah, I am. Am I going out and meeting some people? A little bit. But I like the effectiveness of Zoom, but I do miss the face-to-face. So, I think it's going to get back to more maybe of a 60-40 or 70-30, 70% online and 30% meeting people. But, what's after this? I think that's the thing we have to think ahead is how are we going to have to change moving forward? What have we had to do in the last 16 months? What's potentially coming down the line? Another shutdown? Is it going to be worse than the last one? So how can we prepare in advance? And how can we have another or a different supply line? Or how can we create those solutions that potentially we need? And that's just spitballing. That's just getting a piece of paper up on the easel and purely brainstorming, because a lot of solutions can come from that.
I would say internally. So like for my lifestyle, yeah, supply chain and decision making has changed. I spoke in great length about how I love click and order from a grocery standpoint. And I will say for the first time in probably over a year, I went in to a grocery store and it was a freaking disaster because, and I'm sure that many people will smirk at this. You say, okay, I'm only buying 5 things and you only take a carry cart. And then you're halfway through and it's like 70 pounds. You're like, oh my God, I got to go back and get a push cart because you're buying too much stuff. So the excess in that matter personally is something that needs to, or has adjusted for me. And I got to tell you, I will go back to the click and order because I think it's just better. You buy what you need rather than what you want. But that said, from a client standpoint, it's the same thing. Like, where are these products coming from and how quickly can you get them, right? Mitch, you spoke about the HVAC world. Well, what happens if you are wanting to refurbish or rebrand for COVID, right? Like, that, yeah, we may be open for summer and it may be a thing of the past, but what's the next thing that's going to come? And how are we going to be able to create the experience that we chatted about earlier again, that's going to easily say it's a rollout plexi or it's a, movable tables that don't scratch the floor or whatever it may be. So I believe that almost all industry has needed to adjust. Whether or not it's long-term, that I don't know. And again, Mitch, you highlighted that in one of our other conversations where a restaurant made all these adjustments. And now that it's in service or in rooms dining, all of that is gone. Well, leverage the opportunity to continue that and have that to augment your core business, right? So yeah, I'm curious to see what the playing field actually will look like after the dust has settled completely. And I'm curious to see which industry is going to have supply chain issues longer term, right? Like, you look at the auto dealers, you look at stainless, you look at lumber, although lumber is somewhat, coming down. It's truly quantities. Like, there was no reason for the lumber prices to go as high as they were because it was about a 10-day shortage. And from there, we've never had a lumber shortage, right? So yeah, I'm curious to see about the quantity, the quality, and then the pricing.
I'm just going to echo everyone else, because I wrote down work smarter, not harder. And then you said that. I was like, okay, I was way ahead of you. And then like adjustment, I wrote that down. And then Paul and Matt both said adjustment. So like adjust, work smarter, not harder is what I would say.
Okay. All right. So 15 seconds, single thought, immediate course of action for businesses to take?
Stay the course, but realize that if there is a challenge short term, it's going to be a long-term challenge. So you're going to need to have a plan B, but know what you know, get better, and hopefully support the local, or the supply chain that you have, knowing that if it's a no right now, it's probably not going to be a yes 16 weeks from now either. So you got to get to something different.
Paul?
Get creative. Have your main plan, have your backup plan, and then you have the backup to your backup.
Lorette?
5 whys, get to the deeper meaning, get to the heart of the issue.
All right, fantastic. Now, Lorette actually touched on it earlier, and I love the fact that sometimes I can engineer these conversations, which means they all just sound like they blend into each other. But I always talk about it out loud like that to show you that while we've got a plan, that plan is not structured past making sure that we, one, put people on the spot a little bit. Yay, go team. Makes for better conversation because it means that it's happening now immediately. There's no time to take it away, nurse it, and structure the perfect answer to these things. But two, it also means that you either are agreeing, in some cases we disagree on certain things on certain days, or others, maybe it means there's an awful lot of common sense. We're trying to think what is going to be, this last one is not a safe or an unsafe one. It's not a this or that, but it's certainly a personal opinion. I think I know what the answer is already. I'm going to ask you guys about it right now, and I'm going to start by premising this. We are exactly 1 month away from Small Business Week. It's a week that we recognize in Canada, in the US, in North America itself, other places in the world, to recognize the efforts that small businesses put in, what it means to be a small business owner. And depending on local, regional, and national governments, or depending on the kind of organizations there, the larger based businesses, et cetera, some of the big consultancies in the world, do things to recognize Small Business or Small Enterprise Week. There's seminars and courses and lectures and all sorts of stuff going on. But Small Business Week is also a time to be able to recognize, celebrate, hang your hat out there, right? So have we done enough or not done enough during the pandemic? But also to build inroads in the form of relationships. In the last 16 months, we've talked today a little bit on hospitality, having to look at doing some things a little different, whether things stay different or not for your business, what you have to do from a supply standpoint. And that last one that we always touch on in bits and pieces, but Lorette brought it to the front very succinctly here a few moments ago. Relationships, the people that we've got. Small Business Week is a time to pause, reflect, but it's also a time to add resources, to meet other people, to talk to other business owners in the area, to hear some of those similar things. We're exactly a month out. Small Business Week is a pretty big week if you allow it to be for your business and take the time. So call us your 1 month warning to Small Business Week, but also this is your shot across the bow of your business to look at relationships and the strength of relationships. Because has the pandemic done enough to teach business owners, small to medium business, to invest in the right relationships, find the right relationships, or are we still all wandering around, much like we are, whether or not it's people coming back to work or working virtually, whether or not we've got our shit wired when it comes to food and beverage and our pricing and the way we employ people, et cetera. Are we still doing things the old way when it comes to the way we invest in relationships? Or are we starting to learn something about this as well? Because the people that are still up and around, my opinion at the front end already, and I think I'm right, have a hell of a network to work with if you're still upright. And those people that were alone, chances are got hurt. Panel, thoughts?
The cooperative mindset, I think, is something that has been brought to the forefront, again, not just in the food and beverage aspect, but like there's been a lot of, chefs that may have been competitors in the past with their small 60-seat restaurants that have now all come together to help identify a much larger scope of opportunity, right? So have we learned? I think the smart have, yes, or the wise have, don't want to say smart, but those who know, those who didn't before are now at least reading the book. I don't think they're done it yet. But again, it's all about the velocity in which you're moving right now. And things can move so fast that you need to be able to, again, agile, pivot, move, adjust, like whatever you want to call it. You have to continually grow, and you need to be able to kind of contribute to the greater community. And that's how you're going to be, become an advocate for what you're doing and why you're doing it. And yeah, I My answer would be no in Alberta. I don't think enough of the small businesses have learned. Those who have are going to rise to the top and will be more successful than they were before. The others, who knows, some will stick around for a bit, but they're going to limp along. And then from there, we'll see, right? Like, who knows if another lockdown is coming and whether or not it's for a COVID-19, 20, 21, or 50, like ultimately we've created this mindset of, oh, it's dangerous for us. We're going to need to lock ourselves in our house. Who knows, right? You need to have that in your back pocket and realize that it might be coming.
Okay. Paul.
Yeah, size your network, right? Size your network is your net worth. It's who, not how. And I think that's what we focus on a lot as business owners is how do I do this? How do I get this done? How do I complete this? How do I learn this? How do I stay on top? Rather than who do I know? Who can I reach out to? Who's a good resource that can put me in touch with somebody else within their network? So, it's not necessarily you have to do it or you have to learn it all. It's who do I know that I can reach out to? Yeah, I might not find that right person right now, but who does Matt know? Mitch, who do you know? Lorette, who do you know? By asking the question, now it gets us thinking and going, oh yeah, I do know on that side that might be able to help you out. So have business owners learn? I think Matt's correct on that way, but I think it's also just a lack of strategy. We're not looking far enough ahead. We're not looking 6 months out. We're not looking 12 months out and saying to ourselves, what if? And how can, we kind of prepare for that? So a little bit of looking out, but also who can help.
Brett?
There's 365 days in a year, and like your first year of business sucks. Most business owners fail. I think that's unacceptable. When I started my business, I was like, oh shit, I need a community of people. So like I joined Syndicate right away because I was like, I need people. But like the whisper market is a thing. The know, like, and trust is a thing. Like the theory behind career development has always been, it's not what you know, it's who you know, which is what Paul said. And like really the best adventure in life is human relationships and contributing to the greater good. That is why I love business. That is like the meat and the potato of business. Business is just building relationships. And I deeply respect that and love that. And that's the cornerstone to business is relationships.
Fantastic. All right. I'm going to ask you for your 15-second solution, but I'm going to go first this time. I'm going to take a lot longer than 15 seconds. All right. And I'm going to stay focused on food and beverage for a moment, but if you squint a little bit, it doesn't take much to see the application here. I feel passionately about this one because, well, Matt and Paul and I, Lorette, we spend all day, every day listening to people going through a great deal of whether it's work, business, etc. So I'm going to give you your shake the snow globe moment in your little business. And if you're watching this in years, I'm telling you right now, it would have applied 2 years ago. It apply right now in the middle of a pandemic. It'll apply 5 years from now as well. If you're in a smaller restaurant, go find 2 other restaurateurs that are getting their ass kicked by the marketplace as it stands right now, and walk in the door and say, I want us to come together. We're not going to merge. I want us to come together. Who's got the biggest kitchen and the prettiest looking place? Move all 3 of your kitchens into the same place. Why am I saying this? Mitch, it sounds nuts. Who's been to a food court in a shopping mall? We love food courts in a shopping mall. We love walking in the door. Well, imagine if you had a really good steak joint and a really good pasta joint and a really good pizza joint, and you crammed all your shit in the back of the same kitchen. And then put all 3 of your menus together and said, you can order whatever you want. Serving staff's going around. Everybody splits the bills overhead. Okay. After you do that, you go back to the other 2 places. Well, now we're carrying on 3 places, but we're only in 1 place. Well, one, you could have 3 places that are all serving 3 times the menu. So now you got 3 locations instead of 1. Your staff are only going to divide it up 3 different ways, or every different kitchen learns how to cook all the shit, whatever you need to do. Or 2, turn those other ones into ghost kitchens. Let somebody else bake bread, donuts, and other goodies first thing in the morning. Let somebody else make soup and pho in the afternoon, and let somebody else cook home-cooked meals in that kitchen in the evening and sell that stuff at different times of the day. The entire time you're doing there, pull your money together, blast it out in the form of marketing and advertising. pay kids $15 an hour to stand on street corners in stuffed outfits, waving signs to you. Come in and get this, this, and this. I don't care what your approach is. Shake the goddamn snow globe and do something a little different, like find 2 other dudes and go, hey, let's hammer our restaurants together and not even merge names. Just go, hey, did you like this company, this company, this company? And we got a treat for you. It's all here. Hook up for the delivery service, pay less people in the kitchen, pay more people in service, pay people to put out door knockers, flyers. Like, why is anybody going to go put something? Because nobody else is doing it right now. Do something different. Shake the snow globe. Take 2 other restaurants, hammer all you together in one place, and serve all of it at the same time and split the bills for the overhead. Crack open a couple of ghost kitchens. Crack open a dozen ghost kitchens. Hey, in the pandemic and in Canada, we've never had more incorporations happen in a short period of time than at any point in history, to the point where the online system with the government of Canada has been flooded with requests for people to incorporate businesses. You know how many people have a family recipe they'd love to be able to do? Let people cook that shit in your kitchen 3 days a week and sell it. Help them sell it. Do something different. You know what that just did? It invested in relationships, changed the way your business works, starts to cut down on your supplies, it starts to spread the wealth instead. How much faster do you attract attention when people are always going to the same fried chicken joint? They walk in, get fried chicken now in your shared space instead, and they can also get your pasta, grandma's special recipe. And what the hell? Let's throw waffles in there because everybody loves waffles, right? You can even get really good keto waffles. So waffles, fried chicken, everybody loves fried chicken, grandma's secret recipe for pasta. Make it happen. Somebody, please. Otherwise, Matt and I are going to go off and do it first. So somebody else do this. There we go. I've done my thing. You guys, 15, 30 seconds, solve the problem for them.
I got even less than 15 seconds. Have a plan, work the plan. The only thing that's going to make this easier is the work. So it's just not easy. Get to it, and you're going to lift your head up 6 months from now, and you would have made progression. Have a plan, work the plan.
Paul?
Open to opportunities. Open to, what is the market asking for? What is the lack in that space? If there isn't a great pizza delivery or pizza takeout place in your neighborhood, or there's nothing in a new area, why aren't you taking advantage of that? So it's taking a look and seeing what your competition isn't doing, seeing who you can actually partner with, or, maybe you have to zig a little bit and go, maybe I'm going to be in coffee a little bit, or part of my restaurant's going to be a coffee place instead. Like thinking creatively. Maybe it's ice cream, or maybe it's seasonal. You're changing things up a little bit more. So partner, see what the competition is doing, and then seeing what maybe you're missing a little bit, that if you just turned it a little bit, you could actually be, creating another stream of income.
Before I let Laurette talk for a second on that one real quick, and to stay in the food and beverage line for a moment, used restaurant equipment has never been easier to get your hands on than right now in our marketplace, because so many have gone down. Buy new, you're screwed. Supply, right? We just talked about this. Used everywhere. So I don't think I could do that. Well, when you're spending 40 cents on the dollar for good gear to put into a place, it's a lot cheaper to set up than it used to be at a restaurant. Laurette, final thoughts. Let's solve this problem and take it
I'm
home.
just going to mirror what everyone said already. So choose your own adventure. There is no right or wrong answer. The right answer is do. The wrong answer is do nothing. So that's what I say.
All right. Anything else to add so that we can change everybody's life and then we can go home? Clean conscience. We can get out of here and go away for the weekend. Any last thoughts? Going once.
Celebrate your wins. Celebrate your wins. Right, Laurette?
Yeah.
It's Friday win day. So create some wins. Even if you didn't win this week, just pull it out of your butt. I woke up today. That's a win.
Nice. Perfect. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, this is the MCC virtual box lunch on Friday the 13th in August of 2020. Whoa, spooky. By the way, the only Friday the 13th that ever mattered was in 1307 when the Templars were ganked by the French. That's all I got to say out loud. Other than that one, the rest of it, it's horse shit. All right? You're building it up in your head. get a bottle of wine, get out in the sunshine, enjoy yourself on this day. Yeah, I just brought all that home. It only mattered in 1307 when the Templars got ganked by the French government. Other than that, Friday the 13th is not a bad day at all. Celebrate it, get a bottle of wine, enjoy something with your family and friends. MCC Virtual Business Box Lunch, as always, bringing you good stuff for the audience that's following along. Check out the other episodes. Check out the new ones that are coming up. Follow up with the people that are on here. Matt does cool stuff. Paul does cool stuff. Lorette does cool stuff. Our other guests have in the past do fantastic things. Go find them. Make friends in business. Change the way you make friends in business. Change the way you do business. On behalf of my brothers from other mothers, Matt and Paul, thank you so much for joining us. Next week's time, I'm not here. They are. So they're going to be bringing the heat for you guys next week. Paul's like, I'm not doing that. Yeah, you are, buddy. We're making it a condition of employment. See, I'm changing things right now. Anyway, I am your host, Mitch Kamich, the Savage in Business. Thank you for joining us on this Friday afternoon. We will see you next time around. Reach out, Bella. You need help, support, ideas, suggestions. You can watch these, watch our other videos on our channel, check out the other speakers that we've had on here before, or call us, message us, email us. We can help. You go, won't that cost money? Yeah, that's how we make a living. But you know what? We're going to make you even more money too. So come get at us. We're happy to help. Have a fantastic day. And to the audience as well, you guys always make this really easy for us to do. Thank you for joining us. And we will see you next time.